so that's when we're kind of doing this man thing right now, trying to leave Macy out of it. Let's just talk about it, see if we can fill it up or see if it works out. And hopefully it will, and it'll be a great event. And so that's what we're trying to do. And I know that you took the training, and you're a successful businessman. The one thing I read, I saw actually, Dr. T, I saw a story you may have seen. It was on one of the national news channels, like ABC or something. They were just doing a story about how these women are becoming so successful right now in the marketplace. And a lot of it is because of Instagram. They're starting, just like Macy, starting a business on Instagram and blowing it up. Yep. There's so many women doing this, they're becoming successful. And it made me think about the way the history is developed. You know, back in the day, the strongest guy was the guy that everybody needed. Then it came to the point maybe the strongest hunter was the guy everybody needed. But strength and hunting are just, the strength is the lowest paying job out there now. Yeah. And there's the only reason you go hunting is if it's a hobby, you're going to spend a lot of money doing it. Yeah. And it used to be kids were an asset because you had to help them raise the farm. Well, now kids are an absolute liability. So, and if the women are going out and doing this, I feel like the men need to really get on board and say, you know, this sales and persuasion thing is really big because that's what the marketplace is right now.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so tell us about you. So where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. And I was there for the first 18 years of my life. And then I went to, once I graduated from undergrad, moved to Georgia, Atlanta area, Marietta, went to Life University for chiropractic school. Mm-hmm. And then from there, sort of moved around. I lived in Texas, Mississippi briefly, lived back in Georgia, and we just recently moved to Connecticut. And this is our forever place here.
Oh, really? Yeah. What prompted you to move up there?
So my wife grew up in this area, and she's always moved back, and I was always a little bit resistant. I didn't want to go back to the cold. Right. But she convinced me to come visit, and I sort of fell in love with it as well. So here we are.
And she's happy. You know, it's important that she's happy, and I'm sure she is up there.
Well, and that's the benefit to owning your own business, that you have the luxury of choosing where you want to be. So our first thing on our checklist was, you know, where do we want to be? And, you know, we moved there, and then now we're in the process of getting a clinic open. And, yeah, it's working out. Things are going really well. Cool.
And so how many children do you guys have?
2. We just had, we have a 2-year-old daughter. She turns 2 in April. And then our son was just born in February. So. Oh,
cool. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful, man. That's the perfect situation right there. So do you guys both run your clinic together? Is that kind of what you're doing? Or you have
we do, yep.
Okay.
No, we practice together. Okay. Yeah, it works out really well. We enjoy it. Good. Yep.
And so apparently have you always done some kind of self-development? How long have you been out of school? How long have you been practicing?
Graduated in 2011, and along the way, I think I learned quickly that it's necessary. You have to do these things if you're going to be, especially if you're a small business owner. I have to get my own patients. You have to learn how to, you know, not only get them and market yourself, but you also have to communicate with them and sell your product and your service to them. So, we've taken personal development and, training like that before. And I think that everybody should have a budget set aside, and they should invest in personal development. And what's interesting is after taking Clearly Confident, I realized that it's not just for business owners. It's for everybody. And so I think everybody, doesn't matter who you are, you should invest in some form of personal development at least annually, maybe more frequently, just depending upon your skill set, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think a lot of that clarity came after taking the Clearly Confident course. So first and foremost, I mean, thank you for having me, but also thank you and Macy for developing such an incredible program. I really do think it's something that everybody should try. at some point, and then I think they should continue to do it, every so often. I think it's just such a great program.
Oh, cool. So can you give us any examples like in your business life? Can you tell us an example or a story of when you used it or how it worked out in your business setting?
Sure. I mean, we have a lot that we could talk about. I mean, it's really helped us in so many areas. I think we originally took Clearly Confident. It was my wife, of course. It was her decision. She sort of, she found Macy on social media. She became familiar with Clearly Confident. And so I came home from work one day, and she just said, "Hey, I signed us up for this program. It's going to go over communication skills and sales training. And I think it'll help us in, communicating what we do and converting patients." And so I said, "Yeah, sure, that sounds good." And I had no idea what I was getting into. And so I think our sole reason for doing it initially was to become better communicators of how, of our product and services to our patients. And then after we completed the program, we realized that it was much more than that. I mean, it was everything for us. So like now we use this in the way that we communicate with each other. We use it in the way that we communicate with friends and family members. But specifically for our business, we got exactly out of it what we wanted. It did help us with our communication with our patients. And it did so in a few ways. I think specifically for me, I'm very sciencey. Like I love neurology. I love neuroanatomy. I love, academia. And so when I would explain things to patients, I would get so excited about explaining the things that excited me. And I think one of the things that I really took away from Clearly Confident was get to know the person in front of you and find out why they're there and what's motivating them, and turn your sales pitch, if you will, in reference to why they're there. And it makes it such a smoother process. And so now we're communicating more efficiently, we're spending less time, and our conversions are better. So what more can you ask for from a business perspective, right?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, beautiful. And that's exactly right, because what you're able to do is simplify it to the point so if they understand it, then you're also able to make them see the need for it, feel the need for it by the way you communicate to them.
Exactly. And that was what was hard for me, because people not everybody sees the value in something the way that I see it. And so I had to tell them what the value is for them. First I had to find out what their value was, like what they wanted. And if they could get that from this program or whatever whatever services they just to utilize with our clinic.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, it was excellent. I think again, after taking the program, it made me realize that life is really just a series of sales. It's whether it's personally you're trying to sell yourself, as a friend or as a partner, or if it's more in a professional setting and you're trying to sell yourself as a in a job interview, or in our situation as business owners, we're trying to sell a product and a service to strangers. So I think it is so translatable to everything else in your life. It's really important, I think, for people to consider doing.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Life is a series of sales. I've never heard that say that way. I saw Macy liked it too. That's a great comment. So I hope you're okay if we use that sometime in the future.
Hey, I feel like I got that somehow from Clearly Confident. So you guys are welcome to it if you want it.
Well, thank you. But what about, say, in a personal setting? Do you have any specific time that it happened in a personal with a friend or a family member or well, I guess your kids are probably too small at this point.
Yeah, we try it with our daughter. It's not super effective yet, but hopefully we'll plant those seeds early on. I'd say for me personally, it's been with my wife. With us within our clinic, obviously, we're both in our clinic and we make business decisions together. And with my brain injury rehab and brain optimization, I tend to want to get all of the expensive equipment, the diagnostic equipment, and I have to convince my wife of the value in that. And what I realized that it needed to I needed to convince her that there was a return on the investment, and that was where once I figured that out, conversations for me to get the equipment that I wanted went a lot easier. So yeah, absolutely. I did that, with my wife, and then but everything else has been pretty much business wise. We've used it in we use it in negotiating our new facility. We've used it just recently. I used it in purchasing a piece of equipment. It's interesting. After Clear Confident, I think you become aware of other people when you do business with them. Had any training in communication sales? So I'll give you an example. I was looking at purchasing a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and the first distributor that I called, it just wasn't a great interaction. I didn't feel like they were trying to get to know me or why I wanted the unit. They didn't have good product knowledge, and so I just kind of got a bad vibe, and I wasn't too impressed, and so I decided to call another distributor, and this gentleman was a chiropractor, so we kind of hit it off, and he asked a lot of questions about me, what I do, and why I wanted this. It also turned out that he had a clinic himself. He's retired. He had a clinic where he used 3 different hyperbaric oxygen chambers. And so he said, look, I'm a resource for you. If you want to know how to market it, if you want to know how to use it clinically, let me know. So now when I'm getting ready to buy this hyperbaric oxygen chamber, who do you think I'm going to go with? And so I think it's good too, because it opens your eyes to who do you want to do business with, and so that was pretty profound for me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a great story. Yeah, I felt some emotions boiling when you were telling that one. I'm saying, yeah, that's so true. You hit all the points. I mean, he built rapport with you. He had his product knowledge. He got to know you, and he brought value added because he could even help you outside of that just by helping you or whatever. So we talk about that in our insurance thing a lot. Bring value added, bring values that you're not even charging for, so that you're the trusted guy. So that he did all those things for you.
Absolutely.
That's pretty good. You mentioned earlier a little bit about insight, the way you see things, and I just asked you, I said, think of a story of how you've changed your mindset or your insight of things. Because the reason I say that, the last live thing we did, which was last weekend or 2 weekends ago, one of the writers over, this one participant was writing down some things, and she wrote down, she said, I see this class as 4 things. She said, I see it as, was sales, leadership, communication, and insight. I said, insight? Why do you say insight? Then I thought back of many people after they've taken the class have said, this has changed my completely the way I see things, the way I think, and blah, blah, blah. And so I just asked you, I said, tell me what would be your story on insight on that.
Sure, yeah. I think I've had the similar experience where after taking the program, it did change my mindset and how I thought about things, and how, and specifically in how I think about communicating with people and with everybody. Like I said, with family members, with friends, not being, I think everybody, it's human nature to want to be, centered around themselves. They want to talk about themselves, and you got to avoid that when you're dealing with people. You want to get to know them. I think another thing is clarity. After taking the program, things, there were more clarity in what we were doing and what we were saying and why we were doing it. And I think for me, I've always been, like I said, I love the academia, so I've always put in a lot of effort and energy into studying and learning the material. I've always been super passionate about what I do because I've seen the results and I know that we can help people. But I think what this program did for me was it made me understand the value in what we do more clearly and how to then communicate that to others, to get them to understand that as well. Because at the end of the day, you could be the best in the world at something, but if you can't communicate well, like in my case, I could be the best chiropractic neurologist out there, but if I can't communicate to a patient, then I have, nobody to work on, and I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. So you have to have a combination of expertise, but you also have to be able to market yourself and communicate. So for me, that was probably the biggest eye opener in understanding how important this is. So now my wife and I have talked about it. We want to make it, either an annual thing or even more frequently than that, depending on how often you guys offer these things. We want to do this frequently to build that, what we would call neuroplasticity. If you want to get good at something, you have to do repetitions. You have to do correct repetitions. If you do it incorrectly, you're going to build bad neuroplasticity. So you want to do things, correctly.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. And that kind of leads into, I'll give a plug to we're doing something different. We did the in-person course, and now we're doing the 5 weeks after that, including the labs. And so for this time around, we've got some ambassadors trained, we've got some group leaders trained, and Mason and I are trying to pull back from the labs and let them run it. So we're setting up labs of about 10 people. And so I watched them all yesterday, the recordings, and it was amazing. Those 8 or 10 people got in that lab, and they were bouncing things off of each other. They were trying things they were working on. Then they were giving each other feedback, and they would try it again, and they were encouraging each other. It was a very positive experience. So that's what I agree with you, that those reps and getting the accountability, and people help you with it. So I'm excited about the opportunity of the way these labs can develop.
And I think that's where, because like I said, I've done different personal development courses before, and I think what separates Clearly Confident from maybe some of the other programs out there is the fact that there is the lecture portion, which is a very, it's a very effective, simple, learning process, but then you compound it with the labs, and that's where the money is, because that's where, and that's where you get good at it. You have to be put in that hot seat. I remember it was uncomfortable, right? In front of peers, and you're put on the hot seat, and that's what the growth occurs. You have to do that. If you just listen to the material, let's say you just listen to podcasts about sales training, communication, and yeah, that's going to help you. You're going to learn, and you maybe will make some improvement in your skills, but I think you have to do it. You have to actually in front of somebody, and you have to in front of somebody who, like yourself, who's had the training and is an expert in the field, who can then give you feedback, constructive criticism to help you improve. So, I mean, I sort of wrote down some from like a neuroscience perspective why I think clearly confidence works. And the first thing was with being put on the hot seat and or the hot seat and being put in that uncomfortable situation. And that's where the growth occurs. And that's because you activate the limbic system. And this is the area of your brain where your emotionality lives. And if you think about it, we're all trying to gain success, right? But I don't think that's the big motivator. I think it's the fear of failure, which is what motivates people. So when you're put on that hot seat, and, you have to talk in front of your peers, and you're sweaty and you're a little bit nervous. System is activated. So now when you receive feedback, that's going to get hardwired into your brain. I mean, it makes good sense, right? We've all had success, and I'm sure you remember your success, but I guarantee you what you remember more clearly is the time that you failed or the time that you were embarrassed and your limbic system was activated. So I think that was the first thing. The second thing was repetitions, right? If you want to get good at something, you have to do it over and over again, and how you do it matters. So if you do it correctly, that's good. If you do it incorrectly, that's not so good. And then the last thing were, you have these neurons, these cells within your brain called mirror neurons. And it's sort of the monkey see, monkey do neurons. So if you want to be successful, I think you should surround yourself with people who are already successful. And then when you do that, you begin to mimic that behavior and that activity. And that's because of the mirror neurons that we have within our brain. For instance, when I listen to you talk, Lloyd, those neurons are being activated. And in that moment, my brain is strengthening in regards to trying to give that same output, if that makes sense.
Yeah, keep going. You're doing great. You got more?
Yeah, this is where the sciencey might get over the head for some people.
How do you spell limbic? I want to write that down.
Limbic, Limbic.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, wow. I'm trying to think what I was going to say about that. That's really good. I remember was listening. Maybe this ties in. Was listening to the Jim Quick about the brain. He had the brain injury and recovered. Now he's a memory guy or whatever. And he mentioned, and it may tie. I think it says what you were saying. Just tell me if this is true. He said that when you learn something, like during the lecture, you're learning. He said while you're learning, you should be creative. Try to use your creative mind and try to think of ways you can use that. Instead of just learning, try to be creative at the same time and think, and write down ways you could actually use what you're learning. Is that tying with any of those things you just mentioned?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so, anytime, I always relate it to the way that I treat patients. It's about, if you want to learn something, it's good to get information from different directions. Or like a multimodal approach, right? So you want to receive it. So like say you're a baseball player, you want to get good at swinging a bat. You gotta do the movement, but you also you have to have the learning aspect too. You need to visualize. You need to visualize yourself. You need to watch other people do it as well. So the more sensory input you can get in reference to learning, the better you're going to hardwire that into your system. So yeah, I think 100% that makes sense.
And that ties in with labs and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Let me think. I had something else I was going to ask you or mention. Um, the comfort zone. We mentioned like you're in that situation where you're out of your comfort zone. But the beautiful thing is, if you, I'm going to see if you agree, is that once you do it, then all of a sudden your comfort zone kind of expands, and no, you're not uncomfortable there anymore.
Yeah, well, you get a release of certain neurotransmitters like dopamine is a big one for reward. So once you complete that task, you get that surge, and then I think eventually you start to desire that feeling again. And I mean, I I had a traumatic experience when I was a child doing public speaking. I was like storytelling, and I just completely froze, and that stuck with me for a long time. I absolutely despised public speaking until, I'm not super comfortable with it, but it's one of those things where the more you practice it, the better you get, and the more comfortable you get. And honestly, until I was probably after completing chiropractic school is when I started to realize, look, I'm going to have to get at least decent at public speaking to be successful. So, yeah, but you have to get outside that comfort zone, and you're never going to get outside the comfort zone unless you put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Exactly. And so now, apparently you speak, you speak at some places for people? Is that what you do now as part of your work?
I keep it to mostly, I like to go around and give small group talks, especially in reference to certain conditions. Like I've gone around a lot and given Parkinson's talks to Parkinson's support groups. It's hard when you're in clinical setting too. I'm patient-based, so I try to, that's where I want to help people is treating them within the clinic. So I don't do a lot of speaking engagements, but I do try to get in some. And I like to do teaching as well. I think if you want to master a subject, you should probably try to teach it, because
good.
Right? That's where I think you really learn, or at least master the material. So I do try to do some speaking engagements.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, you do good, and your wife was kind of bragging on you about how well you speak, and now we see why she was saying that, because you really do.
She's definitely the smarter one, though.
Well, that's okay. You surround yourself with smarter people, right?
Hey, that's right. I married up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, are you in a place where people can or would come to see you to get services? Are you at the level that people are flying to see you because you can do some things for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I'm in a temporary space, but I have everything I need to treat, the cases that I treat. And then, like I said, within 3 to 4 months, we should be up and running in our new facility. And that would be a better time to probably come out. But yeah, we see patients from all over the world. We have people come in, especially for concussions is a big one right now. You see this with a lot of these contact sports and collision sports. You also see it in non-collision sports. So soccer is a big contributor to concussions and head injuries. So we do have patients that will fly in and spend a week with us. And in that week, we're retraining the brain. And we're optimizing brain function. And then we have our functional medicine approach, which is something we do routinely, for everybody within the United States and within the world. And that can be done over Skype sessions or phone consults. So that doesn't require, anyone to necessarily come and see us in person, which is cool, because I think that makes it more applicable for most people.
All right. Well, we need to. Can you tell us how to find you? Can you tell us, these people that are watching, how to find you right quick?
Sure. I think the best way to probably contact us is through Instagram. We're very active on Instagram. So the Kempinski Clinic, I'm sure it's been tagged. Right now we're in a transition zone. We're in the process of revamping our website, our logo, our name is just recently changed. But right now you can contact us. Our phone number is 678-861-3424. You can also email us at info@drkempinski.com. That's DRKEMPINSKI. And we're very open and receptive. We love answering questions for people. And so if you have any questions or concerns about yourself, loved ones, family members, whatever the case may be, feel free just to reach out. We love answering questions and helping people find the kind of care that they need. Wow.
That is beautiful. And what what does Cindy do? Dr. C,
Cynthia?
what is she?
Yep.
Yeah.
So she specializes in functional medicine. We both sort of do that approach.
Okay.
I'm more of the brain injury
Uh-huh.
rehab and brain optimization. That's sort of my specialty. But I do functional medicine as well.
Okay.
But her area of expertise is functional medicine. So she'll,
Okay.
she does thorough lab panels, and we look at we check the labs or the biomarkers into the physiology of the body. And so we use that to determine what kind of nutrition and supplementation that we use for patients. And that's her area. She's very good at that.
Okay. So then combined, you do all that. Did you have some kind of a brain injury? You said something. Was that you didn't have? Did you have a concussion or something?
Well, I played football in high school and a couple of years in college. And so at the time, I mean, you don't really know, but I know that I've taken – here's the thing about concussions. You don't necessarily have to have a big trauma to elicit a concussion response. So a lot of people, they concuss the brain. They don't lose consciousness. And so they think everything is okay, but they actually have damage to the brain. It's subconcussive symptoms is what we see. And there's an inflammatory response. So yeah, I'm sure I took a few knocks on the head. So and I have my own issues that I have to work through with that, and then treatments that I've done for myself. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Very good. I don't know. I think it's really hard to sell right now because I just want to hear what you have to say. But I guess the point is this training, you and I agree, the Clearly Confident training is really for everybody.
It is.
And I feel like the men with the way the world is now, a lot of the books that I'm reading are saying that the soft skills, the sales skills are the key skills we need of today. It's not the hunting or the hard labor it's the skills to be able to migrate and do these things. And many of these women are doing this through Instagram. They're growing their business. And I think the men need to get on board and start seeing this as a true tool they need to put in their tool pouch to go out and do the work they need to do.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if you were going to have to go hunt and bring something home for the family to eat, you would want to find the best gun on the market, or if everybody else is using guns and you're going out with a knife, you need to get upgraded to what everybody's using to compete out there for the food. Yep. And right now, your tool, your upgrade is this type of training, the sales and communication skills is where it's at. Anybody can do a service, and a lot of people do services, and you've got competition. You need to be able to get your share and more than your share, because your kids are no longer a liability. They're an asset. They're a liability. And, you've got to pay for those guys. You've got to get them through college. You've got to train them on how to live in this world. And they're going to learn through your example, and you can only teach them what you know. So I really believe that this type of training is where it's at today, to go along with your skills that you have.
I totally agree with you, Lloyd. And I think that, again, a lot of this clarity for me came after taking the course. And there was a female in our group who was in college, and I thought that was so cool. And and I thought about it, and I said, she's going to be successful because she's all in college. I wasn't thinking about this stuff. I wasn't thinking about taking a personal development course and in communication and training and stuff like that. And so it made me think, like, man, how important is this for the younger generation, people that are going out and competing, where maybe the college education doesn't hold as much weight anymore, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who graduate with college degrees and they can't find a job. And so how important is this type of training for people like that when they go out and get into the real world and have to sell themselves in a job interview, right? I think it's important. I think, like we touched on this a little bit earlier, but you could be the most skilled person at what you do, but if you have terrible communication skills, you're less likely to get the job than maybe somebody who's less qualified than you, but has excellent communication skills. And I think for two reasons. One, because the interview process doesn't go as well. And if you can't communicate with your coworkers, well, that's sort of a recipe for disaster as well. So I really do truly think that Clearly Confident is for everybody, and I think everybody should do it. And not only should they do it, they should probably do it annually. So that way you can sort of get really proficient at these types of techniques. There was one other thing I thought I was going to say about it. Go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Well, and the reason is like you said earlier, you get the training, you get the mindset, you learn how to communicate your feelings towards people and understand their feelings, because people are doing business with feelings, not their head. They learn their head, but you're doing this because you love it. It's something you want to do.
Yep.
And then you get the reps, you get the actual participation. You could read books all day long, and the thing about books, everybody's got a book. It's really easy to write a book these days. Anybody can write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need, I think you need the practice, you need the coaching. And basically we're trying to coach people and get you all out of your comfort zone and get you using it. And actually, so I feel like the combination of all that makes it kind of special. I really do. And the reason we came up with this, I've been doing this since I was in my late 20s. And so I've been doing this 30 years, and I've seen it all. And like you, I've taken personal development multiple times a year. I read the books, I do all the stuff. This is a combination of all the things that I've seen that work. So that's when we put it together the way we did. And when we started, said, unless we do this lab work, it's just not going to work. People aren't going to leave and actually do it. So, and I think it has become something special because it's slower, but you just don't turn something around in one lesson. You got to spend some time to work on something and train yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and I think that's what the difference is with Clearly Confident. Like I said, I've taken other courses before, and everything else has sort of been like that, right? Okay, listen to a lecture, listen to a podcast, read a book, but there was really no implementation or really no accountability, right? Like, how did I know that I was getting better at communicating? And when you're put on the hot seat and you have to give your pitch and then you're getting feedback and constructive criticism, that is where I think Clearly Confident is worth it, because that's where the growth occurs, and that's where you can then build upon that. I mean, it's a running joke with my wife and I. It's always, did you use your Clearly Confident technique today? When so it's stuck with us, and honestly, it's been motivating for us. And since we've done it, we've become busier, and it's been really good. And our mindset, our attitude, everything has just been better, and we're just going to continue to keep building upon that. Yeah. And it's been excellent. I think that it's a great course. You guys did a wonderful job developing it. I think it was really well put together.
Well, thank you. Well, it starts with the right person. You are the right person, and you're doing the right things, and that's why you're having the things in life you want. And you motivate us. I mean, when you give us that kind of feedback and encourage us, and that's part of the program is encouragement. People need encouragement, so I appreciate your encouragement and Cynthia's, and so I think we have a great relationship. I've been watching this feed, and everybody wants to come up there and have a Clearly Confident course in your place, and everybody wants to come up there and take a road trip, and so hopefully we'll get some action out of this for you guys as well. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Lloyd.
We look forward to seeing you again. All right, talk to you later.